Hello, and how are you in this cold January day? We're glad to see you back here and watching us. And of course, my name is Carolyn Motley, and I'm with the Cannon County Chamber of Commerce. And you are watching the Cannon County Chamber Connection. And this is your place where we bring you news about people, places, and events that are happening in Cannon County and people who live here. Do different jobs. We're always interested in the county as a whole. So we're just proud you're watching with us today. And like I say, I just went outside. It's warmer than it was yesterday, but it's colder than it was 3 weeks ago. And I'm already ready for summer. But that's the way it always is with me. After Christmas and New Year's, I'm ready for spring. And of course, we have our events slow down the months of January and February, and into March they start picking up because the weather gets to where it cooperates a little bit more. But we have someone with us today that is very interesting. He does a lot of things, and we have Mr. Mark Larson, and he is a retired teacher at the high school, which I really hated to see him go as a teacher, but he has so many other ventures that I don't know. You may not miss it, do you, Mark?
Well, I miss it, but I'm ready to move on and do other things. It was good, and I enjoyed it.
Yes, and you were good at it, too. And one of the things that I think you started the track and field.
Cross country, I started that in the outdoor club, and they were both, loved it, enjoyed it, and had a bunch of great kids get involved in it. And
very successful.
It was fun. We had a good time. And I think the kids got a lot out of it and did well. The cross country team went to the state again this year. The girls and the boys went to the state, and the girls ended up 6th in the state, and the boys 16th in the state, which is great. They did a really good job.
It is. I see them running on my way to work. I'll see them huffing and puffing along when they're going.
They run past here quite often. So
Yes,
we start in April and run all the way through November. So it's almost a year that we're running.
But you really haven't. And on your outdoor club, that always interested me because I thought, oh, golly, not all schools have that. But what all did you do with that? I know you went kayaking because I had two grandkids that were in school that participated in that, and you camped out.
We did. I got the idea from Macaulay. They had an outdoor club. Webb had an outdoor club. So I thought, these kids deserve as much as they do as far as getting out and exploring the outdoors. So I got the idea from them. And Swanee had an outdoor club up at college, where I went to college. So put that together. It was very informal. We would announce a meeting. It could be a hike, a paddle, a kayak, canoe. And we did some camping, not a lot, but mostly hiking and kayaking, and they really enjoyed it. You generally get a central group that would go to a lot of them, but every now and then you get some kids that probably haven't even been much out of Cannon County that would go and really enjoy it and get kind of hooked on it.
Well, I had a granddaughter. Now, Wesley, of course, Wesley loved it. But then I had a granddaughter, Whitney, that went, and I was shocked. I was shocked that she went and slept in a tent, but then she told me about the size of the spiders that were right next door to her.
And the beehive. Their camping spot wasn't the greatest, but they were fine. But she got into she was already into photography.
Right.
But she took a lot of great pictures out there, and they had a blast.
She did. She really enjoyed it. Now, Wesley, he loved it too, but he liked the cross country and all of that. So, in fact, you and he and someone else just had a run, New Year's Day?
It's called the Lazy K, and again, Wes and I, every January 1st, we were going into Murfreesboro, and they had an event that was a 50K. It's a 30-mile, but you could run 10 or 20 or 30, whatever you wanted to run. So we started doing that. We said, we ought to bring this back or something like this to Cannon County. So last year, Wes made a Facebook page we named it the Lazy K. for a reason. We wanted people to come just to enjoy it. We don't recognize placements. We recognize anybody who does it. We make a little wooden medal that they get for just participating. And I think people like that. They come just maybe to run or walk with a friend. And so we had about 50 last year. This year it was about 14 degrees when we ran. Still had about 30 that showed up.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Hardcore runners.
Just absolutely shocked.
But it's a 5K or 10K. You can do whatever you want, or you can run in between. It doesn't matter. The big thing, we just wanted to get people out and be active that first day of the year, and maybe that would carry on.
And not all years is as cold as it was.
No. That was, but it's January 1st, and you expect that, and a lot of people just, I think, know that and come on out anyways.
Yeah.
It was fun. Had a good time.
Were they all ages or were they all young?
It was all ages. We had parents, kids, not as many kids this year as last year, of course, because of the weather, but all ages. They all, from kids up to adults.
Oh, well, good. I'm just shocked that you had 27. I mean,
Yeah.
It was really cold. And I thought, I think Mark and Wesley may be out there by themselves today. I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
thought maybe so too, but they all stayed in their car, and then 5 minutes before we started, here they came.
They jumped out.
We shot the gun and left.
Wesley asked me when he was over at my house on Christmas night, he goes, "Are you going to come down there?" And I says, "Do you need my help?" And he goes, "Well, I don't think I need your help." I says, "Well, then I'm not going to be there."
I don't blame you.
But it was good. I really love that stuff. And then you went on a hike yesterday, didn't
We
you?
did. Anytime the weather does something unusual like it does now, there's normally some beautiful, unusual things to see. So when it does this, we generally head toward some waterfalls. So we went to Virgin Falls Pocket Wilderness area, which is up near Sparta, and hiked down. And my son went with me, took the drone, took his camera gear, and got some wonderful shots of just things freezing over in the fall. It's a beautiful 70-foot waterfall. There's actually two falls down there, Bigelow Falls and Virgin Falls. Both just have spectacular scenery this time of year when it gets that cold. So
Well, I know a lot of the state parks also had hikes that were going on the first of the year, too.
yeah, it's a neat time to go, and you don't think about that maybe, but it's a beautiful, beautiful area. Wherever you can find some falls, there's probably some neat stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there is. I think on TV they had Niagara Falls, and at one time there was one day that even those were kind of frozen over a little
Yeah.
bit. Now, you don't think about them freezing, but
Right.
they did. Now, you not only, since you've retired, you've found things that are going to keep you busy, haven't you? Mm-hmm. One of them is you have and now correct me if I'm wrong, a log splitting business, or?
It's a portable sawmill business,
Okay.
and I've been doing that for quite a while, almost 20 years. And I live in a log cabin, and I bought that when we expanded the log cabin, and then it turned into a part-time job. So I've been doing that for a while. I enjoy doing that, but it is a portable sawmill. So if you have a farm, then what I would do is, and if you had some timber that was down or blown down or you took down and you wanted to build a barn or do something with it inside your house, then I would come there and you would saw it into the logs that you want, and then I would cut it into what you want, boards, 2x4s, 2x6s, and then you would use that however you want to use it. So I've been doing that for quite some time, and I'll continue.
Well, that's
to do
really
that.
handy. In fact,
Enjoy
my
that.
husband, I think, has you in mind for some trees that we had in the back that
Okay, well,
need to
great.
come down.
A lot of people use it, and it's a great value if you have some timber there that's down to use on your place. And a lot of people like to use trees that are on their farm for floors and siding and whatever. Just they like to do that. So it's
he always uses it. He's always building something. Usually I think men just can't have enough outbuildings. I think you just
that's true.
can't have
It's a
enough.
flaw in our system, I guess.
It is. I think it is. Because I told him, I says, we have no room for any more outbuildings. Well, I need to build something for the horses out there. And
I tell them I'm proud of him for that because that keeps me busy.
The other thing that you do, because you also taught economics, right?
Personal finance and economics, yeah.
Right, okay.
And entrepreneurship.
And that's very important because I think a lot of people, well, I left your card back down there, but you also do some advising and, or you would like to do some personal financial advising and things like this to help people out, and I think a lot of people need that. I think sometimes they don't realize they need it.
They don't. You know, financial health is probably one of the most important things that people love to avoid. And it's
But
like
they're going to need it.
That's right. And there's another misconception is that you need to have a lot of money to need financial advice, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Is if you have a job and you're making money, and I don't care if the job's at McDonald's or anywhere, you need to put together some type of a financial plan. And if you do, you can be much more successful. And success doesn't necessarily mean rich. Success would mean maybe retiring when you maybe early, maybe giving charities, maybe handing down things to your kids, but everyone needs a financial plan, and there's a misconception there that I don't have enough money to where I need to think about that, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
That really is true. In fact, sometimes I think the less you have, the more you need.
Yeah, that's right.
Really,
That's right.
that's true, because a lot of people now, they get married young, and they expect things that maybe it took their parents years to accumulate. Being young, they want to start out with at least that same
That's
or
a
more.
great point. And they feel like they need to start in their parents' neighborhood and with the same things that their parents had that it took their
Right.
parents 30 years to
Accumulate,
acquire.
really, yes.
That's right. So it doesn't happen that way generally.
And of course, I think a lot of times if you have financial difficulties just starting out when you're young, that puts a stress on the marriage, and a lot of people split up because of that very thing.
One of the biggest causes, I think, of marriage problems is money.
Yeah.
And money issues, but it can certainly help. And to set myself apart a little bit from maybe other financial advisors, I can kind of tell you why I started this, and it'll probably help explain what I do. But throughout my life, I've had several financial advisors and financial planners, and I started kind of young on my own. But there was always this wall that they would keep between you and kind of what was going on in that industry, and that upset me a little bit. I didn't like the grayness there, and they were all good people, didn't do anything wrong, but it was like there were some things that they didn't want you to know. So I started studying the industry itself, and I found out, you know what, this is really not that complicated, and there are a lot of ways that you can avoid some costly fees and advisement fees and fees in mutual funds, and there's always these fees that really weren't explained to you very well. And I'll give you a good example. Like the other night, I was buying a meat thermometer, right, on Amazon. And I went on there and it's $12.99. And other than tax, I feel confident that that's what I'm going to pay for that meat thermometer, $12.99 plus tax. Well, in the investment advisement industry, there's, you pay for the advisement and then you invest in maybe a mutual fund or something like that. But then all of a sudden there's a 12B1 fee, and there's a C load fee or an A load fee. And so unfortunately, the industry itself has a bad name because of that. I think people feel like there's a gray area there they don't understand. So my job, I felt like, is that I can decomplicate that for some people, and let's set up something that's very simple for me and you and to understand, and a plan, and let's avoid all those fees that we can avoid, and help them understand what they are. So that's kind of why I got started in it, and I wanted to kind of help some people that wanted to. That's why I call it financial coaching, is I wanted to help them help themselves and be able to manage their own money and not pay these costly fees to have someone manage it for them.
And that's true, and a lot of people are afraid of that, and that's one of the reasons that a lot of people don't get into that, is because they don't understand it well enough to jump in there.
Right, and a lot of times, and some people may want this way. They want somebody else to handle it. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to think about it, and that's fine. But that's not what I would like to do. I would more or less like to coach them in the fundamentals of this. But and let me separate the difference between a financial planner and an investment advisor, and I'm more of the financial planner. And an investment advisor is pretty much going to say, well, let's look at what you want to invest in, and I'm going to help you invest. Well, a financial planner is going to look at everything from your insurance to estate planning, which is extremely important, to your emergency fund. And if you don't look at those things and you go straight to investing, I think you're not going to be successful, because a lot of things there.
Understand it.
That's right. And if you don't have that emergency fund, and if you don't have that estate planning and process, and if you don't have the right kind of insurance or the amount of insurance that you need, it could destroy your entire financial plan. So to me, looking at investing without looking at the rest of that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I think a lot of times people take the ones that say, well, that's above me. I don't know anything about that. I don't really want to know anything about it. Just handled it.
Yeah, and I understand that.
You get what you ask for.
Yes, you do, and I understand that. So what I try to do is decomplicate it for them and show them how simple it can be, and it can be simple. There's no reason that a 7th or 8th grader couldn't explain this once you have the basic concepts of mutual funds, and there's managed funds, which are going to be more expensive, and there's index funds, which are not going to be very expensive, and there's brokers that are going to charge you more, and then there's discount brokers like Vanguard that's going to charge less. And so there's just some things that I try to put in place for my clients to show them how simple this can be. And a lot of times, normally in this industry, what happens is that they're going to ask for a percentage of your investment. That's how you're going to pay them. And let's say it's 1%. That's kind of an average. The more money you have, generally the less that is. But 1% of $300,000, let's say you had $300,000 in a mutual fund, is $3,000. So you're going to be paying that advisor $3,000 a year. Well, the first year they go in and set that up, that's probably worth that, okay? Because they're going to do everything, and there's going to be a lot of work on the front end to get you set up and to get a financial plan put together. But then the next year, your investment is going to grow, and their fees going to grow. Well, that I don't understand.
And they're not doing as much.
And they're not doing as much, if not doing anything. So what I do is I'm going to charge you an hourly fee up front. We're going to work it out. It's going to be a very affordable hourly fee because I've kept my cost down, and so I can pass that along to my customers. Well, I'm going to keep that down, and then I'm going to charge you by the hour, according to what you want to do. Could be 3 or 6 hours. And then after that year, you may not even need me the next year. So there shouldn't be any cost other than what the cost is of your mutual fund the following years. But now I would advise that we get together for a shorter time, maybe the next year or so, just to do a checkup. And but it shouldn't be anything like it was the first year. Well, that's generally not how it happens in the industry. They get that set up, and then every year your account is growing and their fees are growing. And that just never made sense to me because the work wasn't there in the next few years. So that's kind of how I separate what I do compared to what most other advisors do.
Okay. And how do they get in touch with you if they're interested in this?
Well, I've got a website. Now, the website is kind of hard to remember, but it is personalfinancialcoachingtennessee.com. And you can go on there, and there's my phone number, my email address, but it's personalfinancialcoachingtennessee.com. And I just finished up the website this December. And there's some videos on there about my philosophy and kind of what I do. And I agree with what you said the last time we met, that I think this business is a lot about networking, shaking hands, meeting people, because somebody wants to know and feel they can trust who they're dealing with. And so I think that's the next few months. And I'm going to let it take me wherever. I've been in business long enough to know that sometimes what you think is going to happen doesn't happen, but it goes a different direction, and I'm good with that. I would like to focus on maybe some teachers and doing some free seminars to start with teachers, because I know what they're up against, and I know kind of what their financial opportunities are where they work, and so I feel comfortable with them, and then just kind of see where it goes from there.
Right. You know, even companies, that would be something that different companies could offer their
employees
and everything to kind of let them know there's someone out there that can help them.
Right.
You know, I had one man tell me one time, I did mention to him about perhaps getting some type of financial counseling. I forget what his problem was. And then he told me, he says, my finances are easy. He says, I get paid, and by the end of the week, I've spent it.
Right, and that's very normal. That is not unusual.
You know, so this is something, and really, the younger you are, to to start something like this, the better off you are.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, Wes, he's a great example. And I actually used him as a guinea pig on this software that I've got. It's kind of a goal-based software where you go in and put your goals in. And so we did that. But even the fact that he's just looking at that at his age, he'll be extremely successful. He'll be able to retire in his 50s, guaranteed, barring some catastrophe.
I think he has, I think that's his plan.
Yeah, well, he will, and I think, and again, it's not that complicated. And anybody, I don't care if you work for Caterpillar or you work for McDonald's, if you can just put together a plan and just start it, if you can just get that mutual fund started, I think that's the biggest obstacle. And then once you have that set up, you're good to go.
I think a lot of people don't realize that things change in your life. You know, like, well, Wesley, for example, has a great job right now, you know. He's very, I don't want to say tight, but they're very careful.
Yeah, that's right.
With their money. They are.
Yes.
Except when it comes to certain toys
Right.
that he enjoys.
I understand. Everybody's got a butt, you know. I'm
They
not going to
do.
spend butt. Mine's mountain bikes and kayaks.
Right there, see, that's the thing. And that is with everybody. But what you have to take into consideration always is things don't stay the same if you look at your life over a period of years, you know. I've told Wesley before, right now it's great. You're doing great, you know, but anything could happen. Things can change.
It can, and a great part of this plan, or what I like to do and focus on that generally investment advisors don't, is the estate planning. And whether you're looking at your parents and do they have an estate plan in place, or your estate plan, either one is extremely important. I think I told you my father just passed away in August, and just going through, and I was the executor of the estate, and just going through that was such a tremendous job.
It's a big thing.
It is, and people need to understand that, but there's ways to make that easier by just having some simple things, the power of attorney. You want to have your living will in place, obviously your last will and testament. There's just a few simple things that you can set up that'll make those decisions so much more easier when someone has to tackle that. You don't want to make them make those hard decisions on their own. You want that to be made up front by somebody else.
Well, especially if there's more than one person that will be part of that estate.
Absolutely, it is.
You know, if there's brothers, sisters, whoever.
And normally there is.
Yeah, and that, I've seen that split families.
Absolutely, it can. So it's very important to have that. And a lot of people think that estate planning, again, is for the rich. Couldn't be further from the truth. Everybody needs an estate plan. It's just some simple things to have in place. And a lot of it doesn't even involve money. It's just the power of attorney. Who's going to make the decisions if they can't, if they're in their hospital, or maybe they don't want to make the decisions. Maybe they just want to pass that on to somebody else. Or the decision when they're terminally ill. You don't want to be making those decisions. I don't want to be making those decisions for my parents. I want them to make the decisions, and then that happens when the need comes.
You know, I learned the hard way with my mother. If you get a power of attorney, you better include the medical power of attorney.
Right,
Because
right.
I didn't. I thought I had power of attorney. Well, when it came to medical decisions, I didn't have the power of attorney.
So you need two. You need the medical, and you need what they call the property power of attorney, which that would just be dealing with the rest of the things. But it's extremely important, and it's just not that all you need is a notary. It's not something you need to spend a lot of money on. Just it needs to be notarized, and you're good to go. And I would say more people than not don't have that.
Yeah.
Have that set up.
Well, I didn't realize it when they told me I needed a power of attorney, because she did have to go in the nursing home. And she had something happened to her there that she had to go to the hospital with, and they needed somebody to sign it. And so I thought, well, I have power of attorney, but I didn't have medical power of attorney.
And that's the things that I think are important that to cover that the investment advisor probably wouldn't, because they're just going to be covering the investments and not the things like that, like the estate planning, and the insurance. Those are extremely important.
They are. Well, I think this is great, what you're planning on doing. And like I say, I don't see any moss growing under your feet because you've retired. So this is a good thing. But then, once again, they need to get in contact with you. And if you didn't get that website, if you'll call the chamber, I'll be glad to give it to you. if you need some help like this. And this certainly sounds like something that would be worthwhile and within your means to pay.
Absolutely. It'll be, I've got it set up where I can help people. It's not a lot of money. It's certainly worth it. I almost like to say that you can't afford not to do it. Because, when I see people, and if you've seen this, they'll spend $1,200 to $1,400 on a prom dress. That's money that
Yes,
they don't
I have seen that.
But if you ask them to spend a couple $100 on an investment advisor or financial planner, they wouldn't think of doing that.
How much?
But that will pay for the prom dress time and time again if they would do that.
And one
So-
thing about it is that prom dress is going to be worn one time.
That's right.
And the financial advisor is going to help you through your,
I hope
Your
the entire
years.
life. That's what I'd love to do.
that would be good. And like I say, even with the power of attorneys and everything, I know when you're young, you don't ever, you think you're bulletproof and everybody else is too. But you may need that for your parents, or if you live with your grandparents or something. 'cause
Absolutely. And that's a
there's
tough
no
subject to bring up. And I used to
guarantees.
tell my
It is.
kids in high school, when we were talking about personal finance, go home and blame it on me. Say, hey, Coach Larson said to come home and ask, do you have a will? And because they think that their parents are going to be thinking all they want is the money, but it really has nothing to do with that. It's just, that, I would want your will to tell me exactly what to do with your money if you were to pass away.
Right.
And so it's a tough subject to bring up, but it's something that needs to be done.
I have 2 sons and a daughter, and they'll both tell you, well, I want to be part of it, but let Brenda do it.
Right.
So
I understand.
she can handle it, and that's, and I probably will give her the.
Right.
But then if something happened to her, then they're going to have to step up.
Right.
That's all I
And you
can
can set
say.
that up. I mean, you can have you can have somebody as a backup power of attorney or a backup executor of the estate, something
Yeah.
like that. You can have the backup, put it however you want to put it. Just that's what you're making the decision and not them.
Right. All right. Well, very well said. I got another mark right here coming in. And of course, it's the first of the year, and things will start hopping at the TWRA. And you are our Cannon County Wildlife Officer, Mark Vance.
That's right.
Okay.
Let me see, been here 7 years since October.
You have been here quite a while.
Yeah. Coming up 7 years on my 7 years on fishing rodeo.
And
Been doing
nobody's.
that 7 years.
No, yes, and I think that's a
Are you
great
scared
thing.
of me? Do I need to-
No, I was giving room so you could get in there too. No, I was just telling Mr. Larson, he's an outdoors person.
All right.
And I was just telling him that one of the things that I think is a really big thing, I love it, and you always wondered why I thought so much of it, is the fishing rodeo.
Oh, yeah.
But little kids love to fish.
Anytime that, this day and time, there's so many distractions. They got video games, they got TVs, they've got the internet, they've got all this stuff. that
That's
can
not
keep 'em-
always good.
Well, it can be highly educational.
It can.
However, if you can get a kid outside to give them an interest in something to get out and get to the water and
Play.
see stuff, learn about it, ask questions about it. If I can go every day and learn one thing, I think I've done pretty good.
Well, I would
If I can learn 7 or 8, that's even better. Or see something new, see something different.
Yes,
Here in the
yes.
county in the last 5 days, I've seen bird species here that I've only ever seen in other parts of the state. Snow geese. I've got pictures.
You're a big bird watcher, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And little bird watcher too.
Okay.
I like the big birds, but the little
I
birds,
know.
they impress me too.
Okay, well, I should have said you're very interested in bird watching.
That's true. Well, you think about this. If you take a bird that's no bigger than my finger that may weigh a half an ounce and he flies from here to Costa Rica
That
and
always
back
amazes
a
me.
year, he can fly 5,000 miles and do that 7, 8, 10 years.
Are we talking about hummingbirds?
Yes.
I always heard, and then I was told that that wasn't true, that the way they got from here to Mexico was on the back of another bird.
No. They do it on their own back. They
And I
fly
thought, well,
around.
how do they know where that bird's going?
And that's, I'll have to apologize. I'm not taking my hummingbird feeder down because I'll leave them up. And there used to be this adage, take them down or they won't leave. No, the birds in the fall if you're feeding hummingbirds in the fall, the birds you see today may not be the birds you see tomorrow, and then the following after that, because as these birds know there's a place to feed, they're going to visit it for a day or two, and they're going to move on.
Yeah.
So, they're flying on their own.
See, I leave mine out late. I don't leave it during the winter because I don't want it to freeze.
Mine are empty, but,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not taking them down. I got to take them down, and I'll wash them, dishwasher them.
But I know that those birds come back the same ones because before I even put my feeders out,
Yeah.
I will see them out there buzzing around where the feeders usually go.
That's right. They know where they were, and that tells you that bird was there last year,
I
or he
knew
could have been there
was.
for 2 or 3 years in a row. So,
But you know what they do that just drives me crazy? My husband has a shop and it has lights in it. Oh, like those lights up there. They go in there and they can't get out.
That's an aggravation. The best thing I can tell you to do on that is open every door, and on the biggest door, I've had that to happen in my shop. Open every door, but on the biggest door, put a light down there on the outside, and most of the time they'll fly down into that light. Oh, they're outside, and they'll go where they're supposed
Well, what we do to get them out, we just wear them down until they've flown around because they won't come down just a little ways
Right
and
from
go
that.
out the door.
That's right.
We got a butterfly net.
That was going to be the second thing. Catch them, take them out there and turn them loose.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do.
But I have lost a couple where they would get in there and we wouldn't catch them and maybe they'd be in there
Right, too
a
long.
while and I would
usually,
lose them.
And that happens, and I have found them that way in my shop too. And that's one of the bad things about it. But the one thing you might be able to do is move those feeders a little bit away from that shop
They
where they
are
don't go
quite
in.
a ways away from
But
me.
just
They're up
sometimes-
at the house.
And they
so I
might go
don't
in there and
ever put
roost, and that might be what's going on. Because right now I've got Carolina wrens and eastern phoebes that are roosting in my shop. I've got a little hole, and they go in there and roost at night. But they can come back out pretty easy.
Yeah.
But the hummingbirds in the summertime, that happens.
But I hate that. But I love the hummingbirds.
Oh, yeah.
I do, and I usually put them out. But I see them out there buzzing around, and I thought you've been here before.
Well, think about it. We're 75, 80 days away. We'll start seeing spring migrants. We've got, January, February, the latter part of February, the pine warblers will be here. They're usually our first migrants, and from there on, it's just a accumulation of birds that'll be here.
All right. Well, I like birds.
Oh, yeah.
I like all kinds of
I want
them.
to talk just a few more minutes.
All right.
Right now, I don't know when this is going to air, but right now, today's high is going to be in low 30s. We're going to have single-digit temperatures. Every bit of the water that's in every pond, small catchment is froze. The only water that's not froze is streams. And if you want to help the little birds right now, you might have out feeders if you can. If you've got a pool that's got a little pump in it to keep that water moving, that'll have the little birds a place to drink. Or a heater. You can buy a little cheap, inexpensive heater to put in a bowl of water. You might have it out for your cats or dogs right now. I don't know. But
Well, I do have water out for the cats. That we put it in there daily.
Right.
But what happens with the, we have a pond, and of course, it's spring fed. So one end of it doesn't freeze.
Right. Well, that's a
But
big
the other end, yes,
As long as
it's
you've got
had
that-
ice on it.
Yeah, as long as you've got that moving water and they've got that ice edge or just somewhere they can land and drink, that's good. And the best food for them right now, if you're feeding them, is black oil sunflower seeds. That's the best food to put out for probably 90% of the birds out there will eat that. You might buy some millet to put on the ground there's some birds that will not land on a feeder. A dove won't land on a feeder. They want to land on the ground. So you might want to put some on the ground.
I've seen one try,
Oh, yeah, they don't have strong grip.
but they can't hang on.
That's right. They'd rather land on the ground. So
But
that's-
you know what can hang on? Woodpeckers.
Oh, yeah, they'll hang upside down. It's the funniest sight to see those little birds out there. But, I enjoy feeding them, and
We got one that's quite large.
oh, yeah, we've got, 5 different species of woodpeckers around here. Actually, 6 right now, because we've got a winter migrant that comes down and stays the winter, and he'll fly back up north. He
He
nests.
likes cold weather.
He likes cold weather, so he follows us, but he's down here right now.
All right. Well, what else have you got going on, Mark? I know that we have a wildlife sanctuary here in Cannon County that you do take some bird watching tours on, don't you?
Well, it's not necessarily a wildlife sanctuary. It is in a sense in that we are trying to have a place that the bobwhite quail can have a place to raise. We do allow hunting on it, but they're not allowed to hunt the bobwhite quail. We want those to produce, and for that area, which is Headwaters WMA, to be a source for surrounding properties, private properties. And in a sense, it is a sanctuary for the bobwhite quail. Of course, it's open to any use, anybody that wants to hunt. We don't have any water on there for fishing, but the people can come on there and hunt. They can also they can come bird watch. In fact, I do take a group a couple of times a year on that property to bird watch. By this time next year, I will have an established trail system of about 4 to 5 miles of trail that people can come and walk. They can walk that year round. Walking in the springtime for the spring birds, or they can walk at any time of year. So it'll be pretty neat. That'll be the head point to get to it was going to be at the River Road access.
Right.
So that'll be a pretty neat area.
Right. But see, I like that we have an area that's kind of protected.
It's it's neat, and we want to keep it as natural as possible and keep a natural regime. But as I said, we're doing it for the small mammals and the bobwhite quail. So we do a controlled burn on it once a year, but we don't burn it all. We'll burn a patch, and that way that new growth comes back, and that's a place for them to go back in there and feed and use while there's another area left alone.
Oh, well, we got too many forest fires all over the country. We don't need one on Short Mountain.
Yeah, we do it in a controlled manner, so that way it's nice to use.
Okay, well, very good. What else is going on?
I got deer season about to close. Today is the 3rd. Yeah, today's January 3rd. Is that right? Yeah, January 3rd. January 7th, the buck season closes. That's the coming Sunday. We'll have 5 days of a
Doe season.
doe season, or it's actually antlerless because there might be a small buck that doesn't have any horns. It's legal. But we're about to wind the deer season up. Had a good one. We've got good numbers statewide. Insurance rate's going to go up. We don't harvest some of them. I'd rather harvest them humanely with a rifle than hit them with a car. So that's one good thing.
Well, I'll be truthful with you, I'm not much of a hunter,
I understand.
but I have kids that are. My son and grandson, they love to hunt. They always want to come show me, and I thought, don't show me this, because I really don't want a deer head in my living room or a turkey or...
And I can understand that, and that's one thing we as hunters, and I include myself, I'm a hunter, we have to have that respect for the folks that don't hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's anti-hunters, and we have to understand those as well, but we understand that there's people out there that don't hunt. They don't mind if other people do.
No.
But we don't want to rub their faces.
No,
and
I don't, I don't mind unless, I guess the only time I ever minded was the one time where these hunters were sitting in this restaurant, and I went in there to have breakfast, and this was back in Colorado, and they were talking big game hunters, they were telling all these tales. And they were parked next to me. And when I went out, I looked in the back of their truck, and there was a fawn in there. And I thought, okay, I'm not impressed.
Well, and again, we have to have a respect for each and all. And the biggest thing, we have to have respect for the game that we hunt.
Yeah.
And make sure that we're taking it in a manner that's legal, and we're doing it by means that's safe, and we're doing it humanely.
Yeah, shooting from the truck probably isn't the best thing to do.
No, it's not the best thing to do, especially off a public road, because one, that's illegal, it's dangerous, and that's why there's laws against it.
But I do know that when the population gets too many, then, yeah, there's been a lot of people that have hit deer on the highway and everything.
You don't have to look any further than Hendersonville. You can go down into Sumner County, and they've got issues right now in the metro areas of Hendersonville that they have deer that are overpopulated. They're getting into gardens. They're causing issues on roadways. So Sumner County, in Hendersonville especially, is going to have to start doing something, and they're looking at many different things. They can't really open a season in an urban area, lots of houses, but they're going to have to start doing some different things.
We had something happen, and last year, I guess it's happened every year, but last year I heard of it more than, and that was with the birds that were roosting in different places. Those big, are they vultures?
They're vultures, and that's one thing that I have had issues here in the county.
Yes, I've known several.
Here in the city limits, there's a grove of pine trees just off of South McQuarrie, and it's backed up on both sides by residential area. And we could have as many as 200 and 300 of these black vultures that have, well, it's mixed. It's many different vultures that'll come in there and roost. And, I don't want to call these disease vectors, but they have a purpose in life, the vultures do. They help clean up carrion. However, if you get a large number of these roosting in a public area, it can cause health hazards by their droppings.
Well, their droppings was on the roof of one of those buildings.
And that's, and it is unsightly because they'll fly from those pine trees to surrounding houses, especially early in the morning. They'll get out there and warm up. You'll see them. They'll line up along the roof line, sit there with their wings open to warm up, warming their muscles up, their flight muscles before they take off. And yes, they're going to do what birds do. They're going to defecate. And a big vulture, he's a little more than a hummingbird, so he's going to make a mess. So, and
He's quite a bit more than a hummingbird.
And that does cause some issues. And I've already here in town talked with the U.S. The federal government. Now they're federally protected, just like the eagles, just like the hawks.
I didn't know that.
And the owls, they're in the same category. They're protected. So I have to. There's nothing I can really do other than contact the federal government, and we are in contact, and we've gotten permission from local landowners to take some steps to alleviate that problem. Now, however, you know what they're going to do when they leave the pine thicket, right? They're just going to move somewhere else.
I know.
And that's, and it's...
And then it's somebody else's problem, huh?
It's somebody else's problem, but, if we can move them to going back to roosting on the bluffs and in the trees, that's the idea.
Not really in town.
Not in town. If they go out up on Short Mountain, they can roost all over Short Mountain, not bother anybody. So and that's the whole idea.
Well, now y'all did something. You did something that came out there and discouraged them.
Well, what they do is what's called, we hang one in effigy.
Okay.
You'll take a dead vulture that's either been removed by some of the process of the USDA, or I've actually got one, in the back of my truck that was hit on the road because he was eating carrion on the road and didn't get out of the way of the car. So you take that, you take a cable and put it and hang that as high as you can in the tree for its wings out to where the others can see it. And they don't like being around their dead buddies, putting it bluntly. So when they see their buddy hanging there by his foot,
well, I feel the same way.
They're going to leave. And that usually works pretty good, but sometimes it only works for a short time, and you may have to put another one up or two in that area. And that does work, and we've done that over here. It worked for a little while. We may try it again, and we may take another step. So that's why we've contacted landowners.
Well, whatever you did, it alleviated the problem for quite a while.
Yes, it did it all the way through the summer and on into the fall. And I think in late November, December, we started seeing them come back. And I come by over the other day, and there was another 150 getting ready to land in roost. So they're back, unfortunately. And it's something we'll have to take more steps.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, well, and speaking of those vultures, we actually have two. A lot of people think they're all one species, but they're not. The one that we've had here for ages and ages, and ones that I grew up with, is called the turkey vulture, and he's got a red head. And that's where the name comes from, the red on the turkey, just like the red on the vulture. It's a turkey vulture. These guys they're going to sit and wait until something actually dies to come and eat it. Now, there's a different vulture that's come into this area that's expanded his range out of South America and Mexico. It's called the black vulture. Ergo, he's got a black head. Got a little different colors, a little bit smaller, but he's much more aggressive. This vulture will actually come down and kill something. A baby calf, a fawn, a goat. They will attack something to kill it, and they will do it in number. I have seen as many, I get out and try to help them sometimes, an old cow that's got a calf, and that calf is maybe just born and not quite gotten on his feet yet. There may be 200 vultures sitting around trying to get that calf. That's right. So farmers are having issues, and there's been some steps taken in the state, but if you got any issues, contact me, and we'll sure enough, we'll do some things to help alleviate
what
that
I'm
problem.
going to tell y'all is you better walk lively when you're out there, because if you act like you're half dead, there's something's going to take you away.
That very well could be.
Do you have a date for when our fishing rodeo is going to be? It's usually in what, June?
It's the first, think of this, it's the first Saturday after the first Monday, if that makes sense.
Yes, I have other people that tell me that.
The first Saturday after the first Monday. And that's usually, it's going to be in the first 10 days of June, when we'll crank her up again and going to have a big time with that,
That's really proved to be quite popular, hasn't it?
Very popular. We had some big numbers there a time or two early, but there's been some other events going on close by.
At the same time.
That's right, and that's helped, we always have big time, and we've still got people, always want to donate and be a part of it and be associated with it, and,
Well,
I
that's
do
good.
enjoy it, Maybe
That's
we'll come on
good.
top
I
of this
think
one.
that's good because I think
Between
little
now and-
kids like to,
Oh, yeah.
like to fish.
I always enjoy it. One more thing about the kids. Let me see. Probably the last week of February, I'll be having a hunter education course.
oh, I knew you did.
Hunter safety course, hunter education. A lot of people call it different things. And it'll be, I usually have it Monday through Friday. I'm not sure right now. I'll probably have it at the senior center. And we'll meet Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for a course.
Okay, do you know,
I don't know exactly. It's going to be somewhere probably the last full week of February, because see, March we'll have turkey season open. So we usually want to get some kids in that are able to hunt that before or do that before that course. Anybody born after January 1st of 1969 is mandatory to have the hunter safety course.
well, I think that's a good thing.
Well, it's called a hunter education course, but it's hunter safety, and we do talk a lot about firearm safety and safety in the woods, not just with firearms, with tree stands and hunting around others, and it's and I always tell my classes when I do them, it's going to be it's the stepping stone for a person that's never been out and hunted or been out in the woods much. It's a stepping stone to take that and build on for the rest of their lives, and that's what we want to do with it. So look on the TWA website. I'll have it listed on there pretty quick. I've not nailed down the exact date, but we'll have it pretty quick in the latter part of February.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of turkeys around.
There's a pile of them.
There is, and I'll tell you something else there's a lot of, and that's coyotes.
Well,
Because
and-
we have some in the back, further back from ours. I hear them,
oh yeah,
Our dogs have never met up with them, I don't think,
maybe they won't.
but I hear them at night.
And I can remember, I just turned 50 this past October, but I can remember a time in this country when it wasn't a coyote.
No, when I first moved down here in the 70s, there wasn't.
Right, and it was probably about the mid 80s, somewhere right in there, maybe towards the late 80s when I started seeing them. And they're another critter, just like the armadillo that's come in here and the fire
And
ants.
that was something else I
That's
hadn't
right.
seen before was an armadillo since
Yeah.
I'd been in Louisiana.
Yeah, and see, they've expanded their range as well, and there's different reasons that they've expanded. They're moving.
Now, how did a coyote get all the way down here from Colorado? Because we had them out there, lots of them.
Well, let's go back and let's think 250, 300 years ago, what this area looked like. It was heavily forested, lots of old timber here, and there were no bridges across the Mississippi River.
Okay.
All right. The Europeans came on this country, and we cut down the eastern forest and opened it up, and we planted crops, and we had cows, and we've got goats and sheep, and we kept a lot of it cleared. But there's more forested now than there was 200 years ago. We opened this area up, and we built bridges across the Mississippi River. And when we built bridges across a mile-wide river that they couldn't swim, now all they got to do is walk across. And there's video evidence.
I thought somebody brought them in here.
Well, no, there's video evidence on these bridges of armadillos walking on that little narrow path, that little curb on the side, and the coyotes walking that. Now, that may be not the only way, but that is a big way that the large numbers of these critters have gotten across the Mississippi River, mainly the coyote, mainly the armadillo, and now they come into this country and they're moving north.
Okay. Wolves came in. They were transplanted. I
Well,
watched that on TV.
Now that's the red wolf. Now, we had the red wolf that was here in our river bottoms, when the Europeans came on the scene, and we, fortunately we killed them all, and there's a few places that are still there. But they were basically the coyote of the South, And they were two separate populations, but now that they've come together in these places where the wolf was here, they intermingle readily. And that's the problem with the red wolf. It's going by the wayside because it is interbreeding with the coyote. So we're going to have basically a more coyote than wolf, which was the red wolf, which was the southern wolf. It's not the big gray wolf that you have up in Minnesota and Canada and Alaska. It's a much smaller species, but they're being bred out of existence because of interbreeding with the coyote. And the only way we can have a pure red wolf, unfortunately, is in a pen or a zoo. So he's not long for this world, unfortunately.
Well, I kind of hate that, except I really don't want one.
Well, they have a purpose, and he is a large predator. What else?
Okay.
You ain't got any snakes in your pocket, Adam?
Oh, no. That's the only thing I like about this time of year. I can go out and I don't have to worry about one being anywhere around, but
There you go. Well,
I probably do more flower work this time of year than I do in the
yeah,
summer.
you get a okay, y'all can have it now. I'm going to stand here and just look from a distance. There you go. You got somebody else coming on. I need to get out of
No,
the way.
I don't. I
Am I
don't
it?
have. Yep, you're
Oh.
it. I had 2 cancellations today, and luckily you just jumped right in there and did this. But I usually talk about a few events. But is there anything else that you're going to come up with?
There's something that I'm looking at doing. It's been done in some other counties, but I'm looking at doing a trapper education. It's basically, it's similar in context to the hunter education, but it's talking about trapping. How to do it. Trapping is a dying art. My dad, as far as back as I could remember, was a trapper. He would buy all his licenses and most of his ammo and anything he needed with proceeds from trapping. That's not done as much anymore. I know of only 3 or 4 trappers in this county. They serve a purpose. You know, we've talked about the coyote. People have problems with coyotes. Well, I've got a fellow that's pretty good at catching coyotes. You know, this man has agreed. He knows how to catch coyotes. I get them in contact, and they usually it's beneficial. One can take the coyotes and get them off of a property, and plus he's helping that man that may be a cattle owner, a chicken owner, or a goat owner, and it's mutual beneficial. So, trapping is a dying art.
Well, you're right, because I was going to ask you, how many people do you know that really trap? Now, I will tell you this, we have done a little in the barn because we had raccoons and possums that would come in there and eat cat food.
Oh, yeah, they'll do that, too.
And so we put a live trap out there. We didn't trap them and kill them, but we caught more cats than we did anything else. But I mean, we did catch a couple, and that was with just setting food inside the trap, and they go in, the door closes.
That'll do that, and that's something that's probably. I keep a quantity of live traps, especially for the springtime of the year. Get a lot of calls on it. You know, somebody's got, like you say, you got some raccoon eating the food. My daughter lives less than a half a mile from here. She had that problem. You know, if you can do it, only put the food out during the daytime, remove it at night. And that's the easiest way to do it, to keep them from coming in there. They may come in once they learn that it's gone, they'll quit coming around. But if you can't do that, some people have feral cats or cats that always stay at the barn and you can't always go and move it. So, and that live trap is a means by doing it to do that. So,
you would think that like possums would be afraid of cats.
Oh, no.
But there isn't anything afraid of our cats, but our cats are afraid of everything. They're afraid of mice.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. We had a barrel that had horse feed in it, and it had gotten a hole in the bottom, and my husband was cleaning it out, and there was a bunch of mice in there. And we put the cat in there, and the cat was afraid.
Well, the biggest thing a lot of times in that barrel, in mine, you think that they're afraid of the mice. Actually, they're afraid of that dark hole.
Well, maybe so, but they were afraid.
But if you can get that cat up there, if you've got those mice in there, hold that cat up there and maybe shine a light and let them see that mouse, they'll go in there on their own, but they don't like being thrown. Have you ever tried to put a cat in a kennel to take
No.
them to the vet?
Yes,
It's not a lot of fun.
I have.
Even a cat that you petted all your life to try to get them in there, it's, they got all four limbs out there trying not to go.
I
"Oh, we're going in."
usually just wrap one up and set it in the front seat.
There you go. That's the easiest way to do it right there. That's a good way.
But anyway, that's about our extent of live trapping. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you, muskrats.
Muskrats.
We have muskrats down at the pond, and we thought we got rid of all of them. But I haven't seen any swimming or anything, but
Did you
I
see
think
evidence?
they're back.
And they'll sink pond.
Yes, they will.
Just like crawdads. If
I didn't know crawdads would.
they'll sink pond. They're diggers. They'll dig a hole, and they can dig a hole that's that big around and dig it for 25 feet. So they go
Well,
down the ground. and
muskrats
that's-
can too, because
yeah.
it was there. It looked like a sponge down
Yeah,
there.
they'll sink a pond. And again, I talked about the fellow that was helping the fellow with coyotes. A trapper is a big help with those muskrats. They get into a pond, and it usually doesn't take very long to catch them out. We may have to do it every couple of years. But if you said yours is a spring-fed pond, and that's many times what you run into. You got a stream of water running into a pond, and you'll have a stream of water running out. And the way they scatter, and the beaver do the same way, running water. They're going to go upstream. The beaver will find a place that they can build a dam to make them a pond, or they find a pond that's got plenty of food around it, and the muskrats move in the same way. The only way you can get rid of them permanently and never have them back is to get rid of the pond.
Oh, well, I can't do
I don't want you to do that. No. But, that's the only way to permanently get
I
rid
know.
of them. So, but, trappers can come in and help, or you can sit out there right at dark when they come out swimming around and shoot them with a .22 rifle.
Well, that's kind of what happened to
And that's-
the other ones.
Well, that's done. Or the trapper, he can do it as well. He might catch 4, 5, 6 in one night and
Oh.
get rid of the whole colony in one night.
Well, that's
Muskrats.
good to know.
They are water-loving creatures.
All right, I have to talk about a couple of events. You're welcome to stay. I appreciate you coming
I'll
on.
get out of your way. I hadn't eaten dinner. You called me so quick I didn't get half time
Well,
to
I'm
eat dinner.
sorry. You just need to go eat, Mark. But if
Well,
you
look,
want to
do I
come,
really need to eat?
I'm not going to answer that question. You're not sucking me into that.
We'll see you, Miss Carolyn.
Goodbye.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we do have a few events that are coming up, and of course, the Art Center always has events. They had a big year last year, and in 2018, coming to the stage, they're going to have, in February 2nd through the 17th, they're going to have the Hunchback of Notre Dame. April 6th through the 21st, they're going to have the award-winning comedy Flaming Idiots. And that sounds interesting, doesn't it? July 6th through the 21st is Grease, the musical. I love that show. August 10th through the 25th is Titanic, and that's the new musical for Titanic. And then September 28th through the 13th, and then there were none. And then November 2nd through the 17th will be Hello Dolly, and everybody loves that one. Now, the concert calendar coming up on January 13th is Forever Abbey Road. They have been here before. They are a tribute band to the Beatles, and they are great because I've seen them before, and they put on a great show. I seen this man last year. He was here, and this is called Your Buddy, Aaron. I believe his name is Tessus, and this is a tribute to Buddy Holly, and that will be March 17th. And for those of you who remember who Buddy Holly was, I do. I was a mere child, but I do remember that. May 19th through the 20th will be Sail On, and that's a tribute to the Beach Boys, and everybody loves the Beach Boys. And then the Ultimate Oldie Show, Classic Country Hits, will be June 2nd through the 3rd, and Yuzu, a tribute to U2. That one I'm not familiar with, but that will be June 15th and 16th. And then the Jake Leg Stompers, I have such a hard time saying that, with the Eggplant Fairy Players, and that'll be September 1st. One other thing is the Chamber of Commerce will have their annual Mix and Mingle Banquet, which will be held on Thursday, January 18th at the Art Center from 6 until 8 p.m. All chamber members are urged to attend and bring a friend. We want this to be a mix and mingle, and we want new people to come in and see what's available to them with a membership to the chamber. It will be catered by Southern Charm Cafe and Bakery. The cost will be $15 per person. You can meet your fellow chamber members and your new board and sign up for your own 60-second commercial, which takes the place of a speaker because we let everybody talk about themselves. And there'll also be door prizes. We can't leave that out. And please RSVP to the chamber 563-2222 by January 15th, so I'll have enough food for everyone. And I'm out of time, and we appreciate you watching, and we will see you again in February.